Good afternoon, Vice Chancellor, sir, the chair, and panel, and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, Vice Chancellor, sir, and thank you very much for you all for taking the time to be here. First, I would like just to spend a little bit of time giving you a quick idea, outline on my research. My topic, evolution of Sri Lanka's counterinsurgency strategy, Benin counterinsurgency strategy, is a research I focus into two significant events that was unfolded during the period from 2002 to 2009, namely the Norwegian peace effort failed and the military coalition be succeeded over LTT. It is important to look into the bigger picture and understand it in real terms. First, I will give you a brief snapshot on Norwegian peace process and to unfold as to why it was failed over the time. Then I'll speak you on the winning counterinsurgency strategy with a different look into the final phase of the war because this has been severely criticized. So ladies and gentlemen, let me to start with my presentation proper. Why Norwegian peace process failed? It started from February 2002 and continued up to 2008, and at the end it was a failure. But the majority and the many sections of the polity supported this in Sri Lanka, and the West and the US also supported this. India also acknowledged. Interestingly, this Tamil diaspora, well connected to LTT, also supported to this in the same manner they support they extended earlier in the military machine of the LTT. Norway also had a good name as a peacemaker in the world. Then how it failed and what reasons made Norway to fail here? If I explain it with a bit of theory, in a conflict, both parties require to reach a position where the continuing of the conflict would not be worthwhile. Then only they will look for another alternative. Then only they satisfy with a common goal, sacrificing their own unilateral goals. Sri Lankan context at the time was so different because in the theory it is considered at the right time and it is where a mutually hurting stalemate exists. But the Sri Lankan situation at that particular time, there was no right time and the mutually hurting stalemate was not there. Having lost all strategic ground militarily and the first ever negative growth in the economy, Sri Lanka had no other choice other than a negotiated settlement with LTT. So what made LTT to come to an agreement like this? LTT had managed to consolidate well, but there was international pressure, there was regional pressure to lie down LTT's stance as a terrorist organization. So they decided to become a political organization for the time and avoid being targeted. On the other hand, there was no opportunity for a powerful mediator to play a powerful role in the Sri Lankan context at that time. Norway being powerless and less influential in the region was the only option. That's how Norway came into the scene, and because of the Norway's powerlessness, the total peace process turned a failure. I'd like to show you the military assets of the LTT by 2006, and with that I will move on to the strategic setting to the final battle. LTT was just buying the time at that then, and they was buying the time to reach a position where they can come in full swing militarily. It is interesting to see how LTT make the stage for that. LTT boycotted the election, presidential election in 2005, and prevented people casting their vote in their control areas. The idea was to give the world that people in their control areas have no faith in any of the Sri Lankan government. So there was no more trust in the people in their control areas. That was the prelude to exit from the peace process for a larger military confrontation upcoming. In that setting, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, the president who elected afterwards, it was a narrow victory. And interestingly, under him was a very volatile, weak coalition government. And that government also with negative, with no faith on the weak peace process. But that is where LTT miscalculated seriously. LTT miscalculated the new leadership, and LTT miscalculated the region and international setting. Most importantly, the LTT, Prabhakaran miscalculated the patience and the wisdom of the new leadership and his ability to frame the region in his favor. That was the beginning of the end of LTTE. We'll see the strategy that won over LTT. I'm not going to talk about the tactical battle, but here it was not an important one, but basically a homegrown political military strategy under strong military leadership, even unborn babies. The suicide female LTT cadre, who exploded in the army headquarters, according to the reports, is a pregnant mother. She had managed to find a way easy into the well-secured army headquarters, thanks to her pregnancy. She was pregnant, so she was selected to the mission. LTT knew the group behavior of the Sri Lankan army. At the entrance to the most secured establishment in Sri Lanka at that time, sentries at the gate, they did not check this woman. She was not screened, even with a metal detector. That was how LTT used children, and that was how the collective behavior of the Sri Lankan army troops in front of civilians. In conclusion, Sri Lanka is an island, and Sri Lanka's military victory over LTT may not be applicable to all scenarios in the world, but my research suggests it is worth studying as a successful strategy to counter terrorism. Thank you, sir.